Hello there. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for catching up. Let me know on Facebook is probably the easiest way. Let me know that you've caught this up if you've not been able to make it live, which is understandable. It's a Friday afternoon. Lots of people are at work, so that's a-okay. I just turned that chat thing off. So yeah, whether you're here live or we're catching up, just let me know. It's not so much of a lesson today, I suppose. A lesson of some degree. You might hear in my voice I'm a bit croaky at the moment, and I want to tell you why I think that is, and it's not necessarily that I'm sick. Okay, so here's what's going on, and you've heard about my plans, I suppose, to some degree. And if you're not aware, my plans are to open up a shopfront / clinic kind of health spa, and I've kind of been sitting on that a little while. I'm kind of just ruminating on it. And last week I was feeling absolutely fine. Probably talking at this time last week I was absolutely fine. Maybe slight sniffles or something. And then I booked in an appointment with a business coach I know, just a chat, get together, nothing too like serious, just to get a bit of direction. I know her. She's part of my networking group, so I kind of tapped her up for a bit of free advice, and she's kind of given me some next steps. So and I saw her on Wednesday morning, and I was again a little bit sniffly before that, but nothing, wasn't unwell. It was just a little sniffles. Okay. The sniffles started after I booked the appointment, and then my throat, the kind of that afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, started to, it's not closed up, but it just became, my voice became a bit hoarse. I became a little bit run down. And here's why I think that's happened, okay? Because she's given me some very definite next steps to take. And those next steps scare me, scare me a little bit. Because I'm looking at this project and kind of going, okay, I'm going to need to spend this much money on this equipment, this much money on that equipment. I'll need to do all these things. And there's lots and lots of things within this project of building this business to do. And I'm not necessarily looking at just like the next step. I'm looking at step 2 or step 3, step 4, step 5, and kind of worrying about those in advance where actually I don't really need to. But the next step she's given me is go out and talk to estate agents and like maybe people who own businesses who are looking to sell, those kinds of things. So who might already have some of the infrastructure that I need in place, which would kind of save me money and time and effort in kind of the short and long term. And that obviously involves me speaking to people I don't know. So not only is it a thing I've never done before, it's also maybe going against the grain a little bit for me. I don't really like speaking to different people, particularly when I don't really know what I'm talking about. So this is an area that, you know, even though I know a bit about business and running a business, I don't know anything about opening a shop. I don't know anything about buying stuff. I don't know anything about renting properties. I don't know anything really about running a clinic properly. So there's all these things that I'm going to need to find out and do over the next few weeks, few months, if I can get this out of the ground. And I suppose the next 2 to 3 months are really where I'm doing the research and speaking to people and doing that kind of thing. So I've got to speak to people I don't know. So what we often told as children, okay, is don't speak to strangers. And we're told don't speak to strangers. So I'm going to have to go out and speak to a bunch of people I don't know. And because, you know, a lot of people kind of get over that belief or kind of don't let it hold them back. But it's something I believe I have kind of taken on board, and it's become part of me. Of don't speak to strangers, don't speak out of turn. Children are to be seen and not heard. Okay, and I've carried that through to at least some degree into adult life. And through doing lives and kind of being a business owner, I've had to force myself to do videos and to speak to strangers to some extent, but it's done in a very safe way. I'm doing it from a room in my house or out on a walk. I'm kind of doing it on my own. I'm not really speaking to people. I'm speaking to a screen, or I'm speaking to my phone, or I'm speaking to a video camera on my laptop. So it's very different to actually, I need to go in and speak to these people. And do you know what's weird? Since I've realized that and kind of put those things together. So like yesterday, it wasn't hard to speak. I could still speak, but it was a little bit sore and I was more hoarse than I am today and was feeling kind of run down. Today, I'm not really feeling run down, but obviously I'm still a little bit hoarse and still a little bit sniffly. But because I've realized it I think fairly early, that because I'm recognizing these fears, and then I can start to address these fears, these anxieties that I have. And as soon as I start, because I haven't actually spoken to any commercial estate agents yet, I've had a quick look around, but I haven't actually spoken to anyone yet and booked any appointments or anything like that. That's my next job really on that front. It will go away. It will go away. So what would I like you to do? So it's not necessarily symptoms that I want you to look at. It's more the location in your body that any aches and pains exist, okay, or health issues exist, okay, and maybe have a little think about, what's the function of that organ, or what's the function of that area of the body. So obviously, if this is affecting my throat mostly, the function of my throat is digestion, at the beginning of the digestive passage, but it's also speaking and communicating. So have a little think about, the organs that are affected, or the area of your body that's affected, and think about, okay, what's that function in terms of, essentially in terms of human evolution. You might need to look up, what's the function of my liver or whatever it is on Google. Obviously, I've look at things from a emotional perspective, as well as their physical function. So let's just give you an example. Is I suppose the liver is a bit out of the box in terms of what's going on there. So liver, to me, if we're talking emotionally, is a starvation conflict. So we have been starved of something, often financial, but potentially starved of love, starved of something, companionship. Okay, it's been like completely removed from our life for a period of time. It's not necessarily now. It could have been when you were a kid. Could have been a fear of losing money, or a fear of losing companionship, and then that can affect our liver. So our liver's main job is to remove, not main job really, but it's got lots and lots of jobs, but one of its main jobs is the removal of toxins from our body. So we might hold on to toxins more if we're having these feelings. Hang on, I've gone off track slightly. Removal of toxins. So we might store more toxins in terms of in our fat. So being overweight might link in with toxins, but it might also link in with the emotional side of things as well. So there's a few different views you can take on the organs or the parts of the body that that might be affected for you. So for instance, with knees, your knees lock, or your knees are weak. Okay, that might mean you want to escape something and you feel stuck. Okay, because knees are one of the they're necessary for us, essentially, for escape. Okay, it's because you need to be able to walk and run. Okay, again, hips kind of similar, but hips are then in the pelvic region, so that might have more something to do with family or children and emotions around that. Lungs have more to do with fear and fright, okay, because when we if we're trying to escape something, we need more oxygen in our body, so we breathe faster. So if we're scared, we might breathe faster. If we're anxious, we might breathe faster, and that can then go and affect the lungs, okay, and possibly the heart. So have a little think about what's affecting your body and what kind of movements or symptoms you're suffering, and see if you can relate that to a problem you're experiencing now, or maybe a bigger problem from your past, or maybe even lessons you've learned as a child or a young adult that you're carrying through that don't necessarily, they're not really applicable anymore. Okay, so for me, it's not really applicable to be scared of talking to strangers. I'm an adult, I can protect myself. Okay, and the chances are an adult is not going to come out and just attack me. Not physically anyway, it's unlikely. They might, but it's unlikely. They might attack me verbally, and maybe that's something to be something again that might be involved. Okay, people calling me stupid, people calling me insane, people calling me bonkers, people calling whatever. So fear of being called names, fear of being judged, etc., etc. So there's to have a little think, okay, about your health conditions. How is it protecting you? So how is this protecting you? Another thing I thought the other day, it's just popped back into my mind. And again, I think a story that might open our mind a little bit. Okay, so oysters create pearls, right? But for an oyster to create a pearl, what it needs is a seed, okay? And that seed is some sort of toxin in its environment, okay? Something it doesn't want. So it could be a grain of sand that it can't get rid of, or it could be whatever, okay? Excuse me. And then to protect itself from this potential threat, the oyster will create a pearl around that threat, okay? So a pearl comes from an oyster protecting itself from some sort of toxin or some sort of thing in its environment that it doesn't like, that's not good for it. So it creates the pearl substance and wraps it around this thing. In a human body, obviously, we don't create pearls, but what we do create is fat, and we do create lumps. Sometimes we call them cancer. Okay, it could be cysts as well. Okay, so fatty lumps, cysts, cancers. Okay. So I always think of those things as more like, okay, how is the body protecting itself? Okay, so why is it needing to protect itself in this way? Okay, what is causing it to need to protect itself in this way? And the emotion and the organ, where it's affected, will be linked in usually with some sort of emotion or pride damage. Okay, there could be physical damage, obviously, as well, which is the body's protection mechanism. And that was another thing that got me thinking about the liver. And if you've seen my posts today and maybe in the past couple of days, I've talked about the liver a little bit. And the liver is is the organ really that's going to help to clean that up. And because of the liver's job, it's attracting toxins to it all the time. Okay? And if it's maybe struggling, and it will, like the oyster, create a ball of like some sort of a pearl-esque wrapping around a toxin if it cannot immediately deal with it. And those balls will build up, and then eventually they'll affect the function of the liver, and you won't be able to eliminate toxins as easily as you could if you had a healthy liver. So whether it's fat around the liver, or whether there's these liver balls, liver stones, which again it's not really talked about, and I don't know if it's they do seem to exist. Again, it's a book I mentioned a while ago, and some of you might have read or heard of it, by a guy called Andreas Moritz, called The Miracle Gallbladder or Liver and Gallbladder Flush. And it teaches you step by step a process for eliminating these stones from the liver and the gallbladder. And then ultimately improving the function of the liver. It's not something I'm going to teach you, because it's not something at this point in time that I'm personally going to do, because it involves 5 days worth of apple juice to soften the stones, or malic acid if you want to do it, if you don't want the kind of the massive amounts of sugar from the apples and the apple juice. You can get malic acid, which is the active ingredient in the apple that you need to soften these stones in the liver. So an apple a day keeps the doctor away, okay, because it helps to clean your liver. It really helps to clean the liver. Possibly 2 or 3 apples a day keeps the doctor away, and then your body's more able to process these stones because they've become a bit softer and more able to move. But anyway, this process is 5 days of that, and then you take a drink. I can't remember exactly what's in it, so I know castor oil is an option, Epsom salts are an option, grapefruit juice is in there as well. And what that does is it flushes you out. Okay, so the malic acid softens things up, and then you get a drink that essentially is a diuretic drink, and then you have to go sit on the toilet basically for like a day, and then the following couple of days you essentially replenish. So you take certain drinks and herbs and whatever to prevent any kind of backlash from that toxin removal stage, because when we remove a vast amount of toxins all at once, you can get sick. So again, this what I'm experiencing could be related to toxin removal. I had a treatment last Thursday with Scott over in Australia. He's another AMN practitioner. He's gone possibly a couple of stages ahead of me in terms of his knowledge and skill and how he works. But nonetheless, I had that experience on Thursday. So this could be a toxin removal kind of reaction from my body. So there's a couple of things it could be. I don't really care what it is. I don't think I'm actually sick. I don't think this is like a bacterial thing that only antibiotics will solve, or just time. I believe it is more emotional, related to this fear response as I talked about, but it could also be some sort of toxin removal, as my body has kind of been cleaned a little bit through the experience with Scott. And this is kind of a natural healing response from my body because of that. So have a little think about your own physical dilemmas, and what in your life are you, I don't know, trying to escape from? What are you trying to protect yourself from? And how does that relate to the function of the body parts that are affected right now? So as I said, so with shoulders and elbows, it could be you need to push someone or something away. You've been feeling you're kind of like this, okay, with your arms locked out, you're trying to hold everything back. Okay? Back pain, again, are you holding something on your shoulders? Are you being kind of forced down by was there some sort of physical forcing down in the past, or is there some sort of mental forcing down now, either self-imposed or from others? Are you feeling downtrodden? Are you feeling like you're walking on eggshells? Okay, that might be feet problems if you're walking on eggshells. Okay, these kinds of phrases, these kinds of words that we use, they show up, or they can show up in our body. So we've always got to be a little bit mindful of what we think and what we say, and what is particularly the repeated ones, the ones that come up frequently, because they're the ones that are more likely to show up in our body. So we want to remain positive as much as we possibly can. You're not going to be positive mindset all the time, and I think sometimes we need a kind of negative thing to show up in our life to give us a kick up the backside, to point us in the direction of, you know what, you need to change what you're doing here, or you need to take the action that you've been avoiding taking. Pain and illness is simply, not simply, but there's signs from our body that we're doing something wrong, and it's not necessarily nutritional, it's not necessarily to do with exercise, it could be those things, but it's often linked in with emotions and traumas that we haven't fully dealt with. So or like beliefs, like the phrase, like not talking to strangers. Okay, so that's a kind of a belief for me that I think I probably took on board too much as a child, and I've carried it. And it's something for me to go and work on by essentially talking to strangers. That's the way I'm going to fix that, and become less afraid of talking to strangers. And the more I do that business wise, that's going to change things, because I'm going to be able to just essentially walk up to someone and say, hey, do you need some help? I'll do this. Or I'll be better at communicating on video, or I'll phrase things in a way on social media posts, and even in my written words or on my website, or if I write sales pages for courses I've created and stuff, okay, that will come across. Because if I'm afraid of talking to strangers, essentially me writing something, even if in text, if I'm afraid of talking to strangers, that text is essentially me talking to a stranger. So maybe I'm writing it in a way that expresses fear to some degree, even though I'm completely unaware of it. It's totally subconscious. It might put people off because they feel they almost read the fear. They can feel the fear in the words, or the anxiety, or the anger, or whatever, and that will then move them away from me, because they don't want to be involved in that fear, essentially. So they'll get bad feelings about it, essentially, instead of good feelings, which is essentially what we want for people. So I'll leave that with you. If you've got any thoughts, feelings, queries on that, or if you need a little bit of guidance, you've got a pain, or a symptoms, or a problem in a body part that seems to just keep on coming back, let me know, and either I'll know off the top of my head, hopefully, or I can do a little bit of digging and find something for you that might help you find out what it is for you. Yeah. Okay. I think so. I've got one in live. If you're able to send anything in chat, that'd be good. I'm just going to pause for a moment so we don't have loads of silence.